welcome. I'm Sally Hansen. I'm here with my colleague and friend Jackie Joseph, and we are here to kick off a video series that we're very excited about. And this initial video is toward inclusion and belonging. And the idea of toward is really fun for us because it means wherever we are, we can keep moving toward full inclusion and belonging. And in fact, in our lives and in our experiences and our work, that's something that I know I personally, and I think Jackie would agree, I'm always still working toward belonging. I'm always still working toward putting connection first. And so wherever you are in your journey, we're glad you're here. And Jackie, would you help us with the acknowledgement of our sponsors?
Yeah, so this video series was very generously funded by Rocky Mountain Human Services here in Denver, Colorado, where I live. It's part of their community initiatives program. And they fund amazing projects that really focus on helping people work toward inclusion and belonging. So this video series and other resources at challengingtoconnected.com were very generously funded by them.
Yeah, and so as you watch this, the Toward Inclusion and Belonging series, we are focused on things that will support children with disabilities in your inclusive classrooms. You may already have children with and without disabilities learning and growing together. These things will help. If you're in a planning, preparing, getting ready phase, these are things you can start doing now, add to your teaching practice. They're not big shifts, they're little quarter turns. We're going to show you how to build on what you're already doing. And so if you're in that space where your district, your program is planning to start having children with disabilities in inclusive spaces, this series is for you too.
And if you aren't in a district who's not yet taking that initiative, there are still things that you can do, and we have resources for you, if that's where you are too, to leverage and promote and advocate for inclusion from where you are as well.
Great. So as we get started, I wanted to just share a little bit about ourselves. That way you'll know who we are and why this matters to us. So I'm Sally, and I'm living here in Minnesota, which is not where Jackie lives. I used to put a picture of a ice house on my introduction slide, but then I would get so many questions about ice fishing, and I've decided that that's not necessary. So instead, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a marriage and family therapist by training, and most of my professional experience in that realm was in children's mental health, doing consulting to preschools, childcare centers, different kindergarten settings, particularly when children were struggling and having either behavior that was challenging, or maybe they were isolating or shutting down. Through that work, what I realized is I'm often looking for the most regulated adult in that space, someone who can partner and join with that child, and realized adults who are working with young children do not get enough support, are not prepared for the challenges that they see when children have experiences of trauma, or when children are coming in that don't have healthy attachment styles. And there's a big overlap with children with disabilities. And so I shifted a little bit in my work to professional development and a deep dive in adult learning theory, which is where I get really excited and passionate. So as we talk about belonging for children, we're actually talking about belonging for us as adults too, and you'll hear that throughout this session. And so on the screen, I just want to share a little bit about who I am as a person. In the upper left-hand corner, that's my Grandma Pearl in the bright yellow shirt. And Grandma Pearl is who really started my journey in prioritizing connection. Grandma Pearl always made sure that you knew she was happy to see you. No matter what was going on, the first thing we got when we saw her was a hug and a smile. And she lived in a little farmhouse, and we would drive up her driveway and you could see her watching at the window. And then she would run to her front door, and greet us at the front door with a hug and a smile. And so that's the way that we try to operate in our house as well. Even during some bumpy teenage years, when your teenager comes home and throws their stuff on the floor. My daughter Taryn, who is in the picture with Grandma Pearl as a little girl, and then on the screen below that, at a Timberwolves game, our family loves to go watch basketball. Even when she would come in as a teenager, the first thing I wanted her to feel was connected and to know that we're happy to see you and you belong here at home more than anything else. We'll tidy up any of the stuff that needs to get tidied up later. On the middle to the right of Grandma Pearl, that large group photo, those are the brave first initial cohort of inclusion systems changers in Minnesota that I worked with in a role as a professional development facilitator. And we learned a lot together. We learned how to change systems to support inclusion. We also learned a lot about what we need to do differently in our classrooms. How do we build on what we're already doing? Yes, but also how do we make our classrooms more inclusive, more welcoming, more focused on connection and belonging? And so we'll share some of those stories throughout. The next couple are my daughter Taryn and some friends she made in an adapted Phi-Ed class her senior year of high school. And I include those here because it was a really impactful time for us as a family when Taryn realized there were a group of students in her high school that she never knew even went to high school with her because they were segregated. They were in a different classroom all day, a different lunchroom, a different graduation, a different prom. And through this adapted Phi-Ed class, she was pretty heartbroken, frankly, to learn that 16, 17, 18-year-olds who she was delighted to be friends with. Mosley, in the back of the picture, he's got a red shirt on, he's kind of hanging in the back. She particularly was upset when she found out he couldn't come to graduation. And they went to their principal and advocated that they get a choice. Do you want to come to graduation? Yes, it's overwhelming. And so if that's not going to be best for you, okay. But to not even have the opportunity to graduate with your peers, she was pretty heartbroken. And so I share that because it is a reminder to all of us that this is happening today. It is happening all across our systems. And that's what we mean by toward. And so systems are what they are. There's a lot of system change that we can do, but little things like inviting people to make a choice about how they participate in rituals is important. And then the last two, I think, are just a quick introduction to my family. On the bottom right, that's my husband, Chad. We're at a concert. And I kind of giggle because Chad really doesn't ever do anything with a cowboy hat on, and why he chose to wear a cowboy hat that night, we just simply don't know. But again, instead of saying, you look ridiculous in a cowboy hat, you've never worn one in your life, go put your baseball hat on, I just kind of roll with it. Like, okay, you can be you, be silly, be goofy, try something different. And in the top right, we've always had a rule in our house, no phones at the dinner table. And we were out to dinner. My daughter's in her second year of college, and they both looked at me, picked up their phones, and looked at their phones. And I was like, you know what? If that's what you need for a moment to just chill on your phone, okay. So that's a little bit about me, maybe more than you wanted to know, but I think it's important as we talk about something personal and reflective, just to know who is it we're talking about. Jackie, how about you tell us your story?
This is a part of it. I love, actually, Sally, that you encouraged us to add this to the introduction video because this is really personal to us for so many reasons. And the storytelling, I think, is how we connect. But I know I tell a lot of stories about my family, so getting to know or see some pictures of the people who I know I will talk about in every future video is probably important. So my name's Jackie. I am a research associate professor at the University of Denver, where my work is focused in inclusion and belonging and family partnerships. It's focused a lot in the social, emotional, and behavioral development of young children as well. So I get to work with states and communities and programs and people like y'all who really want to work toward inclusion and belonging with us. And I have two little girls who you see here who I tell lots of stories about. Goldie is on the left there. She's the younger, shorter one. Juniper is there on the right. Merritt, our golden retriever, is in the background there. If you see her, she's always right there. You turn around and she's right there. Juniper was born she was born the day after our family celebrates Christmas in 2017. And a few days later, we found out that she has a rare genetic syndrome called Creta-Shaw syndrome. And we were not given a lot of hopeful information when we found out about her genetic syndrome. And since then, every day, she's actually been one of the most hopeful opportunities I've ever had in my life to be her mom. And inclusion and belonging and everything we're talking about in this video series has changed her life, our family's life. So it is very personal, and I can speak from experience as a mom and a researcher, and also an administrator. I'll tell you about that quickly in a second, that inclusion and belonging are the reason why we knew not to limit June to what people told us she might be able or not be able to do back then, and why she's been able to accomplish everything that matters to her and that's important for her to accomplish, because it's given us this frame and mindset and perspective to dream big with her and to not limit her. June has and will always show us what she's capable of when she belongs and when she is offered every opportunity and support that she deserves. That middle picture right there, that picture that says "We got this," in 2020, about 2 months after I had my younger daughter Goldie in the middle of the pandemic, I took on what would I call it? The responsibility, a new job that I was probably not qualified for necessarily, to lead a nonprofit childcare center, an inclusive childcare center here in Denver. And I was very quickly faced with all of the challenges and celebrations and all the hard and the good, just with that full range of feelings and things that happen when you're working in early childhood or early elementary, especially during times like we've been having really since the pandemic started. I tell you that just to let you know that I have been there and we continue to be there with our partners in the classrooms, in the spaces, rolling up our sleeves and just really getting into the work, learning with everybody. That's my husband, Jace, right there. He's funny and he's great. And I should make some joke about him, but he has taught me a lot about how we all start in different places when it comes to inclusion and belonging, and watching him reflect on his beliefs and how they've changed over time and how that has impacted Juniper. His relationship with Juniper has been another personal experience that's been just really informative to my work and to everything we get to talk to you about in this video series. And then those 3 bathroom selfies, which I put up there, they do have a purpose. I write different things. Sally and I present a lot with one another around the country at conferences. And sometimes I get the opportunity to tell our story in keynote speeches. And every time I give a keynote, I will take a bathroom selfie and send it to Jace and the girls in hopes that one day they'll think their mom is cool. If not, realize how important their doing inclusion and belonging with us is to the stories that I get to tell and the ways that we get to think differently with people. So that's me. Sally, yours was so much more representative of your brain, and mine was all over the place.
That's how we work together. Yeah. So you got to meet a little bit of Jackie's family, and as I have had the privilege of getting to know Jackie and a little bit Jace and the girls, there's a quote that Jackie talks about that I think really represents how we think about and how we approach the work. And so I'll read it, and then Jackie, maybe you can tell us a little bit about it. So the quote is from Jones and Gallus, and the quote says, "The desire to be included by your community, to have meaningful work, to share life with people you love and who love you, to belong. These are not special needs. They're very ordinary needs."
I love this quote because all of the feelings and experiences I've got the opportunity to have by being June's mom, I think it really represents that heavy and light and hard and joy. People oftentimes ask me something that you might read a lot about in the family literature, and that's grief. And grief when you get your child's diagnosis, or grief of just being a family member. And I was telling one of my friends about this one time, shout out Megan Vinn, and I said, I did and do experience grief at times. And my biggest fear is that when people hear that families experience grief, they think we're grieving our child. And in my experience, once I've learned and reflected and relearned a lot of the things that I had been taught just by being in society growing up, is that the grief that I feel is not June, it's not her diagnosis, it's actually the world around her that might never see her as her full person and as everything that she contributes to spaces and all the ways that make our communities, our family, everywhere she is and everything she does better. That's the grief. And I think that what I grieve is that June's not being given these same opportunities that all of us who maybe don't have intellectual disabilities are given, and maybe that we even take for granted sometimes. She's not always given the chance to even be in a space, let alone the opportunity to contribute or connect or be loved or to show love because man does that girl have love to give. And oftentimes she's just not given the opportunity to experience these things that she really should never have to earn. And so this quote is a reminder that underneath everything, it all comes back to this basic human need that we all have, which is to belong.
And I love that you say that we don't have to earn this, right? We're wired for connection as human beings. And that doesn't go away or change because of an intellectual disability or being neurodivergent or having physical disabilities. Those human needs, as this quote says, and as you said, are hardwired into our DNA, and no one should have to earn them. So these are opportunities, like Jackie said, to reflect on what do we know because that's what we learned and that's what we were taught, and what do we want to think about in terms of making some changes, some shifts, seeing things a quarter turn differently or a big turn differently.